Good evening, everyone. My name's Lucy Quinn. For those of you who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, welcome to Clonard. Welcome back. It's so good to be able to have you here. We were reminiscing this afternoon, a little bit of PTSD, because this time last year I had COVID, Joe had COVID, another one of our APs had COVID, and about another 15 of our staff had COVID, and the day of our subject expo we had to cancel and go online. So to be able to walk amongst you tonight, to have our Year 12 students and some of our alumni, I'm so excited to be able to share with you their passion for their subjects and indeed where that passion has taken them. It's just been wonderful. It's that human pulse in the place that is just so special. So thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you for being interested in your young people's, your daughters' educations. We cannot tell you how significant that is. That partnership, that interest, that curiosity, that sense of hope and aspiration for them is just invaluable. And we really look forward to the ongoing conversations. Questions are fine, and hopefully there'll be a few of them that are answered, but it can be a tricky space to navigate. And so we really do encourage you to keep asking the questions. We're teachers. That's what we've been trained for. And there's a real expert team here tonight, particularly around the really different pathways that are on offer for your daughters. So as we move on, it is our custom and our tradition as we gather together at Clonard to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we gather on, the Wathaurong people. And tonight we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and any Torres Strait Islander or Aboriginal people who might be joining us here. Come in. So before we launch into the business, we always take time to pause and to reflect. You have chosen an education at Clonard that first and foremost is a Catholic education, an education in faith. And we know that the dignity of each person, and that dignity is expressed in their pathways and their passions and their hopes and their dreams, that's important to us. So we pray. Our life is given to us so that we might, by its end, be the most we could have been, and look back at each stage knowing we did always the best we could. And this begins by seeing ourselves truly, openly, joyously, allowing ourselves to see the gifts we have been given, the limits that we need to break through, the wonder that is uniquely us. This is your journey. This is your time. No one can walk this for you. No one can choose your path but you. So take courage. Take the first step into a future of your own making. Amen. So tonight we have our Senior Pathways team here, and they will introduce themselves to you as we move along. But I'd also like to introduce Joe Ryan, our Assistant Principal of... Joe, don't hide behind the corner. That is such a Joe thing. Joe Ryan, our Assistant Principal of Student Learning and Wellbeing, who works together with the Senior Pathways team. And we've got other staff here. I want to acknowledge to the staff who have been here manning the subject expo tonight. Hopefully they've all gone home to their families. I know they are extraordinarily passionate as well about what they do, and that's a gift for us as a college, but more importantly for our young people. So I'm now going to hand over to Lisa Belitho, our VCE leader, and she will start by taking us through everything VCE. Thanks, Lisa.
I know that you come from different kind of knowledge bases about VCE, and that some of you, this might be your first experience of VCE with your young person, and for others, it's you've been through this before. So I know some of the information you've heard before, some of it you'll hear it tonight, but you'll need to hear it again. So there are lots of slides here. I don't expect you to read everything tonight. I won't read them all out, but you might like to look at them when they come through to you after tonight. So what you've got on the screen there is a basic diagram representing what the VCE is. So all students now undertake the Victorian Certificate of Education. They might do what we call a traditional VCE subjects that you've been learning about at the displays in the Bridgetine Centre, or they might do a vocational major, and Sarah Clark will talk a bit more about that later, but it all falls under the VCE. And then we have the Victorian Pathways Certificate. So if you undertake the standard VCE, this is, you have access to getting an ATAR, a tertiary rank to go to university, might go into apprenticeships, you can do a vocational education and training subject, and there was a display about those as well. If you do the VM, you don't get an ATAR, so that's something that Sarah will talk a little bit more about as well. So the requirements of the VCE, some of you I spoke to about at the subject expo over there, are quite specific. So VCE will be awarded to students who get a satisfactory result in 16 units. So a unit is a semester. So when we say units 1 and 2, we're talking about year 11 standard, and 3 and 4 is year 12 standard. You have to have 4 year 12 standard subjects, the 3 4s, to get your VCE. So that's the minimum. We design a program for students that has more than that, so that there's a buffer in case what we say is the wheels fall off or they reduce their load, etc. There's a buffer there for them so that their VCE is protected, I suppose. So English is the only compulsory subject that students have to do to achieve their VCE. And at this school, at the moment, we offer 2 options for English. You can do English to satisfy the requirement, or you can do literature. So some people were having a chat about that, and that might be something you'd like to look into a bit more. In some subsequent slides, you'll see I've got some sample programs of students and how a program might look, so that might give you some ideas as well. I mentioned before that passing is what students are aiming to do to get a satisfactory. That's separate to getting scores, and that's lots of information. That's probably more information than most of you can handle for tonight. But scores are contribute to an ATAR. And a satisfactory is really essential to demonstrating skills and knowledge. You have to satisfy every skill and knowledge outcome of a VCE unit. So that means we give students opportunities to do that in lots of ways, but they get S and N results. So an N result for anything means that that whole unit, that semester, would be an N. Okay, so that's something to think about in terms of subject selections, students who are considering acceleration, etc. So the program that we offer students looks something like this. So at year 11, students do RE, and at year 12, they do RE as well. Generally, they do 5 other subjects, including an English. They'll do a combination of 1-2 sequences. So at year 11, a student might do a unit 1 and then decide that actually they'd like to change subjects and pick up a different subject for Unit 2. They don't have to do 1 and 2, but for some subjects it would be recommended. So for example, with languages, you wouldn't be wise to drop a language if you wanted to keep doing it through to Year 12. Some students will have an option of completing a 3-4 as well. So what you'll be looking at, if you're in Year 10, you might be doing a 1-2 already, and then that would mean that next year in Year 11, you're doing the Year 12 level of that subject. So that would equal 10 to 12 units. And then in Year 12, RE plus 4 or 5 other subjects, and you'll see what I mean by that in some other slides. So potentially we set students up to have, a total of 20 to 22 units, but 16 is the minimum to achieve their VCE. So the English requirement is that you do English or literature. So you can do a combination of those. Up the top in the red, I'm not sure if you can see that. You could do Units 1 and 2 English and Units 3 and 4 literature, or the other way around. We could do both, English and literature, all the way through. And so there's a brief outline there of how different those subjects are. And so we spoke to lots of people about the differences, but there's lots of research to do if you're looking at which English that you would like to do. We've got some English electives at Year 10. There's a creative writing and a literature one. I think there's going to be an English language offering as well. At the moment, we don't offer English language at the school. These are our 2 options. So these are the models of potential programs. I won't read them out, so I'll give you an opportunity to look at that. So on the left-hand column, in bold, that's a subject that a student has changed. So you can see their program looks pretty much the same, but they've dropped VisCom and they've picked up business management, and they've continued with their other subjects. And then on the right, you can see in the bold are the subjects that have changed. The English has changed there. And then I've got a couple more options here, and these ones include students who might have accelerated at Year 10. So you can see at Year 10 they're doing those VCE units. So it means that when they're in Year 11, they do the 3-4. Now on the left, what you can see is the student there has decided that because they've got a 3-4 already, that they've only got, in addition to RE, 4 subjects. Now in that one on the left, you'll also notice that there's a VET. So a lot of VET subjects are scored. They count as VCE units, and this one I've popped in there as Allied Health. It's quite a popular one, and Maggie Smith will talk a bit more about VET later. And you can see on the right the maths has changed in there as well. So a little bit about the ATAR, and so that is the Australian Tertiary Admission Rank, and that's what VTAC, the Tertiary Admission Centre for Victoria, uses to offer places to students at university. So it's a percentile calculated using a combination of coursework and the end of year exam. So some students, not all courses require an ATAR, but lots of university courses do. So that's another thing to consider when you're looking at pathways, VCE options, etc. You can also opt to do VCE unscored, and that means you don't get an ATAR, but you get your VCE. Okay, so these are decisions and options and things that you think and talk about when you're you're in VCE. Usually in Year 12 you'd make that decision. VCE-VM students, as I said, do not receive an ATAR. Now I've popped a little link in there. When you get a copy of this, there's a little bit more information about study scores, but this is the kind of information that takes a lot to read about and understand. So if it's just kind of going like that, it's fine, okay? You don't really need to be, you don't need to understand ATARs quite this early, but you should have them in the back of your mind. So it's an overview. It's not everything you need to know about VCE, but it's a starting point for the research that, you know, tonight is all about, that starting point, and thinking about where your young person is headed, why they're taking the pathway they are, etc. So questions, of course, are welcome. You can email me, you can email Joe Ryan, subject teachers. Your young people are already having lots of conversations with their teachers about these questions. So I'll pass on now to Sarah Clark, who'll talk a bit more about the VM.
Hi everybody. This evening I'm going to talk to you about the VCE-VM. So the VCE Vocational Major is what was known as the VCAL. It has significantly changed in the curriculum and the structure and the unit requirements. So I'm not going to, similar to Lisa, I'm not going to talk about every single slide that happens up here, but I'm going to give you a snapshot of what the program looks like. So Lisa spoke about the VCE existing. I'm going to talk about the VCE-VM in Year 11 and Year 12. I'm also going to talk about our Year 10 Applied Learning Program pre-voc, and I'll also talk about the VPC as well and how these all fit as options heading into the senior years. So the purpose of the vocational major is to make sure that there is a connection to real life and a preparation for the workforce. So we're talking about preparing students with employability skills and those skills that can't be taught from a textbook. They're more taught from experience and through that connection as well. The heart of our program relies around the applied learning principles and also around the 6 C's of character, citizenship, collaboration, communication, creativity and critical thinking. They're all things that we prioritise in our curriculum planning and our program, whether it be here at Clonard or when students are out at their vet or whether they're at work placement. So this is the graphic that Lisa showed you earlier, how these fit into the program. So students have an option between the VCE and the VCE Vocational Major. I'll talk a little bit more about the Victorian Pathway Certificate, there's too many V's, in as well how that fits, but it's a very specific program for specific students. The significant difference is that we're preparing students for a vocation in the vocational major, and that there is no ATAR. We're not preparing students for direct entry into university, but more direct entry into TAFE, into the workforce as well. And we start that through the, as part of their program here at Clonard. So a VCE-VM program comprises of 3 parts. There's the school-based curriculum, where they're working towards their VCE Vocational Major certificate, their work placement component, which usually occurs on a Friday. There's also exceptions of block placements, and then there's the vet component that Maggie Smith will talk about. And that's the part where they head off to the Gordon and other locations, or they do a vet study here at Clonard. Maggie's going to cover all of that and how that fits into the vocational major. It is a compulsory part, but it can also form part of VCE too. So there's a little graphic that shows you what a student's timetable might look like, where they have 3 days at Clonard and a Wednesday morning, head off to vet, which could go until 5 o'clock, and then they're attending work placement on a Friday. Similar to what Lisa mentioned, there's requirements for the VCE Vocational Major, similar to VCE. So they still need 16 units, they require literacy as opposed to English, and they still require the sequences as well. So they need those sequences of work-related skills, personal development, and numeracy, as well as the literacy. So once they reach that, they also need to make sure that they're achieving a vocational requirement, so vet hours that they must attend. So that isn't physical hours, but units associated with that. And these are all the nitty-gritty sort of parts of the certificate. We take care of making sure a student has that program. So the choice for VCE Vocational Major is more about what vocation do they want to follow. Do they want to go into plumbing, engineering, hairdressing? What do they want to do and where's their interest area? That's paired with their vet study and also paired with their work placement. They might discover that that work placement's not for them or that vet's not for them, and that's okay because we talk about transferable skills. So the skills they learn at different workplaces can transfer into other jobs and other areas. The Victorian Pathways Certificate is different. There's a lesser requirement in units. They don't have to do a VET study, and there's only 12 unit requirement. It's not recognised as a senior secondary certificate. So this program has specific focus on who it's suitable for, so it's offered on an as-needs basis. They are within the VCE Vocational Major class, so they sit in with everybody else in the class and are accessing similar curriculum, but it has got a different focus and it's got more flexibility. So when you're considering between those two options of these applied learning pathways, these are the things you might be considering. What would they benefit from most? Do they need that flexibility? Do they have additional needs? Are there attendance requirements? That's when we're looking at the VPC. The vocational major is requiring those students who are ready to embark on that workforce, attend work placement and do all of those sorts of things as well. We also are fortunate enough at Clonard to have an applied learning program at Year 10, which we call Pre-Voc. So it's got another V in it, of course, to make it a bit more confusing. There's 3 components again in that program. So they have a school-based curriculum, work placement, and then they also do a VET study here at Clonard, certificate to in active volunteering. You can see there what a program for a Pre-Voc student might look like. So they still get to do electives. They're also accelerating in that VET space, so they'll be working towards their VET hours in that active volunteering, so getting involved in the community and doing that certificate to study. They also do a VCE subject in Ready, Set, Go, which focuses on employability skills, work readiness. They get to access work placement. So they're starting to develop that sort of embark on those sort of exploration of what career or vocation they may want to pursue. Electives are still there, as I mentioned, so they can still access those electives with their Year 10 mainstream students as well. You don't have to do Pre-Voc to be able to go into the VCE Vocational Major. You could choose to move in at Year 11. But you may know already that at Year 10, that's where I'm headed. I want access to an applied learning program. I want that work experience. I want to start my journey into that space now. So some students will choose that now. Some students may choose the vocational major into Year 11 and 12. So some questions to consider if you're thinking about Pre-Voc or the vocational major is thinking about how you learn best. When do you learn best when you're in a classroom? Do you learn when you see that connection? Do I prefer when there's flexibility in my assessments? Assessments aren't based around tests. They're all different ways. Might be oral presentations, presenting to external organisations, actually practically demonstrating them. Do you need an ATAR? Can I collaborate? We know when we head into the workforce, we're working with so many different people, and it's a skill that we need to thrive and in those workforce settings. So can I do that? Is that how I learn best, or am I best working more solo in a VCE class? Do I want to get out in the community and connect? We do a lot of work at Geelong Mums or with other primary schools, Ballerine, Feed Me Ballerine, places like that where we can put into context what we want, what our students are learning. And do students want to do work placement? A lot of these things might make students feel uncomfortable and go, that is definitely where I don't want to be. I don't want to be cold calling a place and saying, can you take me on for work placement? But some people thrive in this setting and know that that's what they want. These are the questions. But applied learning certainly isn't for students who are disengaged. It's a place where we need to see a high level of motivation, a high level of organisation as well. So it's not always hands-on. We do lots of work in the classroom around literacy, numeracy, all of those things, but we do add that element into our classroom. And it's certainly not the easy option. Our students are working long days on a Friday, so a work day from 9 o'clock till 5:30. They're also attending school on a Wednesday morning and may not finish their TAFE until 5:30 that night. So it's certainly not an easy option. There's long days and lots of organisation and planning around that. If you're looking at this, there is a different application process. You'll do subject selections as normal, And then you will also put in a Microsoft form link and complete a survey so we can get to know a little bit more about you. We will then sit an interview with you to talk about what your application looks like and whether or not the pre-VOC program at Year 10 or the VCE-VM program at Year 11 and 12 is suitable for you. There will also be a process around VET that Miss Maggie Smith will talk about as well that will explain how you apply for VET and what those requirements are. Again, lots of information, but I welcome any questions as well and hope that we've got to have a quick chat with you too tonight at the Expo to give you a bit of a snapshot and speak with some of our students that have all those range of diverse pathways. I'd like to introduce Maggie, who will now talk to you about VET.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. All right. So what is VET? I was able to talk to a number of you tonight, which was really good. But an analogy that I like to use, because you get so many V words thrown at you and all different acronyms, I like to think of VET as like you're going to Cold Rock. So Clonard is your little cup that's holding it all together. Your ice cream is the VC or the VM. You have to choose one of those to fill your Clonard cup. VET course is like a mix-in. So you can choose that to put on top of your VCE or your VCE Vocational Major, but you don't have to. So they're nationally recognised qualifications that occur in a number of different industries. The majority of VET courses occur off-site with specialised teachers that have industry experience, and they can also occur in purpose-built classrooms. So if you're studying early childhood education at the Gordon, for example, they have an on-site mock daycare centre for you to actually practice activities in there. So it's a really good opportunity. VET in the VCE-VM. So if you're thinking that you might go down the applied learning pathway, our students are required to pick one external VET course and one internal VET course. So you'll actually do 2 VET courses as part of your Clonard timetable. The internal VET options are small business or sport and rec. Now, sport and rec is also open to VCE traditional students as well, so that can become one of your subjects and that will fit into your timetable. If you are a VCE-VM student, you must pick one of those. You must also pick an external VET subject. It also contributes to the 180 hours VET requirement that Ms Clark just spoke of. VET in the VCE, it is optional. It's not a requirement, and you need to have demonstrated a desire or a knowledge in that pathway. So it's not just, oh, everyone pick a VET. We will go through an interview process and you need to actually demonstrate that you have thought about the course options. Every VET course provides credit towards your VCE. It depends whether the course has an exam at the end. So if it's a scored VET course, then it can contribute towards your ATAR as one of your primary 4 subjects. If it doesn't have an exam at the end, something like carpentry or hospitality, then that can actually count as a 5th or 6th subject, so it counts as an increment. But they will always contribute to your end goal. Some general information. VET is largely delivered at the Gordon, but there is also other providers throughout Geelong. Most courses run over 2 years and there is a cost associated. So when your young person does apply for a VET course, we will have a conversation about what the specific costs are that are involved and those that will be added to your school account. Entry is competitive because there is a really big push for vocational education and training and how that can really increase your employability further down the track. And there is an application process that will work through with you. There'll be a Microsoft form and possibly an interview if required. Some of you will have seen the Taste of TAFE opportunity that's coming up. I gave out some forms today on this. This is a really good chance to see what a TAFE course is like before you put an application in. It has been shared on the Year 9 and the Year 10 Teams page. 2 days at the Gordon that will go off and you get to choose 4 different courses that you'll see what it's like. When you do put an application in for a VET course, the first question that I will ask is, did you attend the Taste of TAFE. And if you have said yes, then that's fantastic, because you'll be able to tell me a bit about why you want to do the course. If you haven't attended it, then there'll be a question of, well, why didn't you? If this is what you were thinking, you should have attended. All right, some of the courses that are on offer, it ranges year to year, just depending on what the student interest is, but generally speaking, most of these courses will be offered throughout the Geelong region. And when we know specifics for the offering in 2024, all of that information will be provided. Quickly touch on school-based apprenticeships and traineeships. This is a really changing space at the moment due to some funding changes. There are apprenticeships and traineeships that can be built into your school program. This is a really individual case-by-case scenario, but there's traineeships that were available this year were in early childhood education. There was a few in warehousing. As I said, we can't promise what's going to be on offer, but as we know more, the information will be funneled out. And also apprenticeships are also an option, that you can start an apprenticeship whilst still at school. So we currently have one of our Year 12s who is in her first year of a school-based hairdressing apprenticeship. So she's starting that while she's still at school. That is VET and SBAT in a really small nutshell, just to keep this moving. So I will now hand over to Miss Bolsh, who is our careers practitioner.
Hello everyone. While I think about this, a quick plug. If you have not signed up for each week, a careers newsletter goes out and it is on the Clonard careers website. Please sign up. It's great. Year 9s and 10s are really starting to think about their future, and there's a lot of open days starting to happen in the next few months. So all of that information is in there, and the earlier you do start looking and getting out there and exploring pathway options, the easier it makes it. Come subject selection times, choosing if you're going into VCE, VCE-VM, whether a VET subject fits into your program. So we've seen this diagram before, but at the moment, you're currently in Year 9 or 10, thinking about what you want to do, where you want to go. As we've mentioned, you can go into VCE, the VCE-VM, and it's okay if you don't know. The whole purpose is providing as much information that we can to help your young person have an informed decision, make an informed decision when it comes to their schooling program. The goal is obviously at post-school options to have an idea whether they're applying for a university course, a TAFE course, are they wanting an apprenticeship, a traineeship, are you wanting to go into part-time work and study, are you wanting to work full-time, go overseas, travel. So all of the little bits of information we provide help with the decision and just to make it a little bit easier. Here at Clonard, so all Year 9s and 10s have seen this list, the different services and what we cover through connection days in the careers curriculum, conversations. Students are welcome, and quite a lot of students are booking in to have one-on-one meetings with myself. You as parents and guardians are welcome to also make a booking and a time, whether it's on the phone, Teams, here at school, if you have further questions as well. We cover things like how to write a resume, how to apply for a job, how do you get a tax file number, right through to looking at a course prerequisite, looking at a pathway, a TAFE. If I want to have a gap year, can I have a paid gap year? Looking at applications for scholarships, special consideration when you are applying for university. So there's a lot of information throughout the years that we cover, and just in general, these are the different focus areas for careers throughout the year. So years, obviously in Year 9, looking at your personal attributes, having those communication skills, developing transferable skills or employability skills, identifying what your strengths are, In Year 10, you're planning what are your senior years of school going to look like? What combination is your school program going to be? Year 11, you're choosing that pathway, that program, you're committing to your subjects. Obviously, things happen. We have those conversations, keeping communication lines open so that if things do go belly up, we're here to help you and change your program to support you and have success here at school. In Year 12, it's applying. And as we covered, are you applying for a university course, a TAFE course, an apprenticeship? Do you want to be seeking employment, having an apprenticeship, traineeship? At Year 9, in the next few weeks on the 31st of May, the Year 9 students here will be undertaking Moresby Career Profiling, which is an online tool. There's a series of assessments that they complete. It's not a test. And at the end of it, you get a really valuable resource individualised to each student that explains your attributes, so your strengths, your skills, subjects you might like to take, careers that might be suited to you. So that's coming up in the next few weeks, and then we will have dedicated time unpacking that, looking at the careers that it thinks it's suited to, helping again with subject selections and planning. And just for, as I mentioned, conversations, bookings, you can either email me, Teams me, or book online on the careers website. So I'm here 3 days a week, regularly checking emails. And that was my quick little spiel. So now back to, on to Miss Ryan. Oh, this is what she looks like.
Thanks.
I don't know how to.
You're up there a long time, you know. It's all face. Thanks. Oh, I'm challenged now. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm on. I've got too much hanging around my neck as it is. Okay, look, we've done a little bit of this and I'm absolutely committed to getting you out here by 7:30 at the latest because MasterChef's on. So years 9 into 10, there are some mandatory studies for young people. As we go up, it becomes freer and freer. You know already that there's only one compulsory subject at year 11 and 12, and that's English. At year 9 into 10, we're still holding kids to a little core of English, maths and a science, some science. Kids who are already in life science will go into science in our world. If you're going to take something at year 11 and 12, you should be doing it at year 10. It's pretty simple. Some things are absolutely compulsory. The biology teachers will not let you do year 11 biology without it. Chemistry is the same, physics is the same, LOT's the same. Some are a little bit more flexible. At year 10, you've got 6 electives in each semester. Kids have a lot more freedom. There's about 4 electives, 3-4 electives per semester for young people to choose. They are free choices. This is a time where you start to specialise, where you think, I'm an artist, so I'm going to do all the art they've got. I'm a performer, I'm going to sing and dance, I'm going to be a triple threat by the end of the year. Those are the sort of the decisions that you make, which is why year 10 is such a critical year, and year 10 into 11 is another critical year as well. We can accelerate into a VCE study. Some are actually accelerating to 2. Some of the students in year 9 advanced maths are going straight into further mathematics, which is year 12. There are 10 this year doing that. Little gun mathematicians having a great time in the year 12 maths classroom. They're also probably doing methods at year 10. They might accelerate into something else in year 11. It's really flexible. Those of you who went through school somewhere around the time I did, where it was kind of, that's it, one size fits all, it's a different landscape altogether. So I've got kids in year 12 who are only doing 3 subjects because they've already done 2. Or kids are only doing 4 because they've already done 1. So, are you okay? No worries. So you can accelerate into 2 maximum. There is an application process. If you're already in the applied stream, so in year 10 you're already doing unit 1 and 2, you'll get a letter from me soon saying I'm about to review your place in that program. So your attendance still has to be above 90. You still have to have submitted everything in every subject, and you've still got to be getting over 70% in the subject you are accelerating into. If you're not, I'm going to ask you to step back in semester 2 into a year 10 subject, and we go again from there. Same as anybody in year 11 that's doing a year 12, that's the same process. That's pretty standard. Right, this is where the rubber hits the road. Your young person is going to come home with a form that looks something like this. This is where they confront where they are, talk about where they want to go and what the gap is. So students will be asked to look at every subject they're doing and see how they're going, what's their average achievement in that subject. So when they're looking at what subject do I want to go into, let's say theoretically they're sitting around, I don't know, 40% in mathematics at year 10, and they're saying I want to do methods in year 11, that is a bridge way too far. And the reason why we're doing it now is if there's a gap and they want to try and build it, they build in targets to see if by the end of this year they can get where they want to go to pick up the subject they want to get. The beautiful piece about this bit is the parent reflection part. The student will bring it home and say, these are my subjects and I want to be a vet. I want an ATAR of 99.95. You've watched them play with Play-Doh pretty much for the last 3 years. You might be having a conversation with them about, well, honey, you might need to work a little harder. Or the conversation I have is, do you really want to be a vet? Why do you want to be a vet? I love animals. Ooh, do you like cutting them up and putting them down? So the parent reflection is, what have you seen in your young person? Remember, you've known them longer than they've known themselves probably. It's at least 9 months you've got on them. And so you've probably been seeing them do lots of things that they've forgotten. Remember when you used to love reading, you used to love art, you used to love animals before I said the thing I just said. So you get to be part of their conversation around subjects. If you've never seen them interested in science and suddenly they come home and say, hey, I've just got to do some science, it's another question. Really, what's stimulated this? What have you seen? Who are you talking to? My daughter was all humanities. Every single one was humanities. I'm going to do global, and then in a day came in and said, I'm going to be a scientist. Really? I love you, but... Okay, and down here with finishing the school well is what you're going to target. Okay, if I want to take this subject, I've got to be comfortable in it. The average is around 70 to 80% if you're talking about ATARs, if you're talking about feeling competent. The 70% for those of you who are a little old school is a B. B for boring, but it's B for okay. So if you want to do a subject, you want to do it in VCE, you should be looking at the things you're headed around 70% in to be comfortable. If you really are struggling, it's a question, it's a conversation. What's going wrong here? Oh, well, my effort's about a 2 out of 10. Well, that probably equates to not a 7 out of 10. And that's the conversation parents need to be having with their young people. So we'll be getting one of those out to everybody from year 8 through to year 11. And over here is the second page is where they actually do their planning. What's my course going to be? You have to sign off on that course for those subjects to be entered. If there are any alterations during the school year, I will get you to sign off on those as well. So you know what your young person's doing. We know that you're okay with it. We hope we're okay with it, and everybody's happy in the long run. Things can change, obviously, like it did for my kid. It was the most successful transition. So this is really about transparency and conversations that hitherto I don't think we've had enough of with parents, that we really want to get you engaged in the process, which is why all the year 10s are going to have a one-on-one with Steph, and I really would urge you all to be part of that. You could probably Teams in while your young person's there, so you've only got 10-15 minutes of work. It's probably worthwhile you listening, at least to have grown-up ears around it, because when they come back and say, oh, Miss Bolch said I'm going to be a vet and I'm going to do really well, you might have some questions around that, or clarification, or just call it out. Okay, subject selection processes. I'll be introducing your young people to the actual process this term. Start of next term, around weeks 2 or 3, they will all make their subject selections final. So the ALPL process will be before accelerated learning program process will be before then. That will start any time now. In order to engage in that, a student needs to have 90% attendance, 100% submission rate for all subjects. You don't have to be great in all subjects. You do have to be great in the one you want to accelerate into. And you need teacher recommendation to do that. I will check everybody. They'll know in advance whether they're accepted or not. They just choose that subject as part of their program. Early in term 3, they will make those formal. You'll see here 2 dates around June and again around September, where those letters from me will come out to say, we recommend that you move back to a mainstream course because you haven't met the requirements of the accelerated learning program. There could be tears, but that's life. We have early commencement in the last week and a half, 2 weeks of the end of this year. That will run on the whole new program, the whole new timetable. Kids will know who their teachers are, their classes are. So everything needs to be finalised by me by October, November. I'd like more time, but it's not going to happen. So you will know everything by around the 17th of November. Everything we've said is in the Senior Years Handbook. It's on our website. It's really, really great reading if you're an insomniac and you're feeling like you don't want to take the melatonin tonight. This is probably going to be a really good read. Every subject is in there. Get your kids to read it because it's about them, not you. And my message to my 2 children was always, this is your journey, not mine. So when they weren't doing what I knew they had to do, bear in mind I'm an assistant principal and a senior English teacher. It's their journey. So even though I knew they should have got 90s and they're the 68 ATAR twins, it's their journey, not mine, and they will find their way. I'm just letting you know as a parent. It's not all smooth sailing all the time. Okay. That's True North. That's where all the information is. Have a wander around. Get your young person to have a wander around. Have the conversations and be real. If they've never shown any interest in something and it's just plucked out of the blue, just ask them where they got it from. And if it sounds like they've done some thinking around it, suddenly they go, I want to go into the ADF. Have a conversation. See if that's real. And if it is, great. Let them follow it. And if things go wrong, there's another time. We are in the best country in this world. You can go back to education any time you want. Even though it feels like we're playing for sheep stations here, and it's really important to do well and make good decisions. You and I know life doesn't always go on a straight line, and sometimes it's the wobbly bits and the tangents you go on that actually make life a little bit more interesting, and it's in the dark places you learn more about yourself. These are the contact details. Please feel free to call us, email us, get your young people in to talk to us. We're really not scary. Well, some of them are, but I'm not. So thank you for your attendance tonight. If you've got specific questions, please feel free to talk to us. I promise you it's only 7:20. MasterChef's on. Good night.